Thank you so much for tuning in and welcome to your very own Try Before You Buy channel with your host Karamullah Kadwani. I remember people talking, rather raving about a Serge Lutens release back in its days of glory. Present day, just what the whole industry has become, the social media influences making it even worse. Some of these brands have just fallen from where they deserve to be. Yet, this contrast, where the Frag-rant happens to be a beautiful place to be at right now, you need to pick the genuine fragrance connoisseur who's still on his present day, one who is definitely not on the free bottle brigade, one who can call a shite release and a post fragrance. Hint, hint. Today is going to be all about Encrin de Fumee from the House of Serge Lutens, and the nose behind all the fragrances for this house is Christopher Sheldrake, as mentioned yesterday. Released recently in 2023. So Christopher Sheldrake, I suppose, is working part-time with Chanel. Sheldrake for me has become synonymous with dark and more complex compositions. If I were to have a brand someday, inshallah, I'd definitely pick up Sheldrake or Anton Lee, the fame behind Les Indomables, Amber Supreme, and I think he's designed 3 other fragrances for their house. Would love to have Liz Morse, but she has her own brand. Maybe, just maybe one day. A few of the star notes, if I may, happen to be cacao, tobacco, as per the press release. However, to my nose, tonka is one of them bigger notes and completely turns this one into one of the more historical releases with the House of Lutens. It's classic Serge, with several nuances, be it fruity, woody, dry, sweet, resins, balsams. There is a hint of familiarity. It's not smoky though, so if you're craving for something smoky, this might not be the one for you. On the contrary, if you're worried that it's going to be too smoky, don't be. You'll definitely fall in love with this one. Tonka and cacao really bring in a hint of sweetness. The sweetness complemented with a boozy facet with rum and tobacco. It's not overtly sweet though, as rum and tobacco cuts right through the sweetness and balances it out. The cacao note here is central. Remember that. This is chocolate, cakey, patchouli, like cacao, more like the dark chocolate, bringing in a feel like the cacao is meshed with the tonka. Intriguing, bringing in interest in this release. If I were to give you an example, not of the smell profile though, but the one where ingredients may appear to be meshed together, is that of the House of Guerlain from their La Martier collection, in the name of the fragrance Angelique Noir, where it feels like the Angelica is meshed with the vanilla. Inseparable. This one also has a powdery facet with a real dark chocolate-like profile. The tonka here is multifaceted. It is like almondy, cherry-like, so more like a cherry liqueur feel, if you will, more like biting into the cherry, like dark chocolate filled with cherry liqueur. The cherry aspects come with the tonka and are well rounded. Tonka also brings in the almond nuances, more like dark fruits. Cacao like powdered dark chocolate cherry liqueured scent. The tonka, I'd say, is the second central note. Kind of doesn't remind me of any other Lutens release with this kind of tonka. The use of tonka here is kind of heavy. Right off the bat, I cannot think of another Serge Lutens release that reminds me of this one. Feels really powdery though, and kind of brings me, I'm saying this again and again because I feel like there's the use of iris, diorome like vibes, maybe just the imagery, but with that Sheldrake signature all over it, what takes it into a completely different direction. It's almost too late to the party. The opening has a tobacco leaf aspect that changes things with that multifaceted tonka, booziness with gourmand-like qualities, but then prevents it from going all out gourmand. Some cedar as well, balancing this out further. It's a totally different scent with a familiarity, if that makes sense. It's anything but a smoke show. The smoky facets are very faint, maybe in the background perhaps. It has a lot going on though. It's very complex, at the same time very simple. Everything contrasts itself. Mid to deeper dry down emphasizes less on the cacao and the boozy facets, but gains a hint of sweetness from the tonka. Maybe powderiness with the tonka and hay-like qualities from the use of the tobacco leaf here. It may remind you of Serge, and the sweetness has an ambery glow. If you're looking for a heavy tonka with a sprinkle of that sheldrake signature, this one's for you. Dressed up, winter vibes, nighttime scent. The longevity is 7 to 9 hours, but doesn't have major projection or sillage. I do not rate marked fragrances, but if you're a sheldrake fan, this one may disappoint you. I mean, a hard-core sheldrake fan may be disappointed. We will get to that in just a bit. But for the true sheldrake holy grail collector, yes, it's worth having it into your arsenal. However, having said that, it's not as complex a composition as we're used to seeing with the House of Serge Lutens, or at least from the past releases. Past, I meant 1993 right up till 2000 maybe, or somewhere till 2007, if I may. Not the best tobacco in the game, not the 3D like tobacco. That reminds me, if you haven't watched my review of Serge yesterday, please go watch it after this one. As in my opinion, Serge is a better release, and it was released in 2001, if I remember correctly. This one could have made it as a flanker back in the day, maybe up till 2007. Then you got Tobacco Money by the House of Tom Ford and completely changed tobacco scents forever. A few of the other fabulous fragrances that we showcased yesterday, based on tobacco, which I prefer, that I kept on the table, but the one that I failed to mention, I suppose because it was kind of out of my sight and slipped out of my mind, would be Café Tabac from the House of Serge Lutens. Comes in a eau de parfum concentration. The juice is where it's all at. It's composed by the master perfumer Bertrand Duchefou. Very rich dry fruits, extremely 3D tobacco, intense tobacco, to say the least. What prompted me into the House of Serge Lutens, I probably wouldn't have ever discovered this house, was the parfum that I'm showing you right now. It's Amnesia Rose, and this kind of won the Olfaction Awards 2023. Amnesia Rose happens to be a rose patchouli scent. If you were to ask me or twist my arm to tell you a little about, but I don't really know. It's kind of a disappointment. I have better fragrances that represent rose patchouli. This happens to be kind of a weaker release, if you may. I don't know how the awards work or the Olfaction Award works, but it won the 2023 Olfaction Awards, and the other contender that I think should have made it was from the House of Les Abstraits, from the You Smells Good channel, Eugene, who created these fragrances with the help of Antoine Lee as the perfumer. Antoine Lee happens to be one of my favorite perfumers modern day. The name of that perfume, I suppose, was Descenders, from the ashes. I suppose that translates to roughly the resurrection of a man who withered and died away. Or the previous release was La Douleur Exquise, which is the exquisite pain. Talks about heartbreaks, talks about reinvention, talks about finding oneself out in the nature, in the woods, where Eugene supposedly through meditation resurrected and came out from the ashes. so to say. I don't think it deserved the Olfaction Award, and I wouldn't call it a dud of a release, but then I use it to layer my other fragrances with. Anyways, enough ranting, which I do not like doing on this channel, but couldn't keep away from this. So the House of Edas de Venustas, we discussed this one. Could be a must-have if you just love a heavy use of tonka, that is Encrin de Fumee. But then again, the tonka and the boozy aspects take a backseat from the mid to the deeper dry down and settles to an ambery tobacco scent. Do let me know your thoughts. Also let me know if you already have this underrated gem of a composition in your arsenal, or if you're interested in at least giving it a try after watching this review. Do give me a thumbs up if you take anything of value from this review. Do share your experiences and don't forget to comment. Feel free to ask me any questions and I'll try to answer them to the best of my capability. Until the next time, your host signing out, Karamullah Kadwani.